On this episode of the John 1911 podcast, we do things a little bit differently. We'd taken a small hiatus due to some limited staffing issues over here at the Armory, so I've been quite busy trying to keep all the balls in the air, but no big deal. We are definitely back to normal, so we decided to give you a special 2-hour episode. However, we discovered that exactly at 2 hours, the software times out. So let's get into it. On this episode, the You Ain't Black crack, banning Beltfeds, Team Glock member involved in shooting, and the Strom Trooper felony arrest. Okay, good evening, everybody. This is Danny, Marky, and Freeze, and this is episode 174 of the John 1911 podcast. How's everybody doing so far tonight?
Good. Excited. I mean, we have a three-way. Well, when I say that, I mean we have an evening edition, a weekend edition, and a holiday edition podcast.
Okay. For a minute there, I was like, well, there goes the adult rating on this episode. Like, is this adult content? Yes.
Your mind is always somewhere it shouldn't be.
We are 65 seconds in, and he's like, yeah, three-way.
Oh, sorry.
Friday night in Chicago.
No, no one's getting out in Chicago. Between the governor and the mayor, it's we're now, like I say, the People's Republic of Illinois.
Yeah. So as I said, it is Friday night, so I guess it's Friday, May 22nd. It's a little after 9 o'clock. I apologize to the listeners. It's really me. I've been extremely busy, and since I'm the one that actually has to coordinate the podcast, record the podcast, edit the podcast, write the description for the podcast, and publish the podcast, and then confirm that all the RSS feeds and download sources work, I've been busy. So I haven't been able to
quit whining.
I ain't no ways tired. I've come too far. Oh, I'm sorry. That's the wrong fake. That's the wrong fake Southern accent. You ain't if you don't know whether you want to vote for me or not, you ain't black.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah, Joe Biden. Good God Almighty. So
that guy.
Yeah, is he still recluse in his basement?
Yes. So yeah, they were. I guess he lives. He lives in a very expensive house in Delaware. I know Delaware is not a cheap place to live. So, but you know what? Before we get too deep into the weeds, because there's a lot to cover, I want to go ahead and I want to start at the top of the podcast. I want to do my public service announcement just to prove a point. I don't want to whack people over the head with this, but I just want to go ahead and say it. So, today is May 22nd, Friday, 2020. Monday is Memorial Day. And so this is a 3-day weekend in the United States. And there's a lot of people who are going to be celebrating this holiday weekend. And for many of them, it'll be the first time a lot of them have been out of the house, especially I know here in Ohio. Basically just driving around today and looking at restaurants, they're open. I mean, like everything's fully open. But I just want to take this opportunity to share with the listener, what does Memorial Day mean? Because every year you run into someone, unfortunately one time it was even President Donald Trump, who was like, Happy Memorial Day. And it's like, let's go ahead. Here's what Memorial Day is, according to an authoritative source that I have in front of me. Memorial Day is an American holiday observed on the last Monday of May, honoring the men and women who died while serving in the U.S. military. Originally known as Decoration Day, it originated in the years following the Civil War, became an official federal holiday in 1971. So Memorial Day is the Day of the American Dead. So
Happy Memorial Day.
Yeah. So just keep that in mind. You know, I'm not saying you can't have fun, enjoy your freedoms, but at least if you are so inclined, take a minute to think about how we got here and the prices that were paid, the sacrifices that were given, so we can argue about Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden and Mike Flynn and Schmeiser 60-round magazines. So there, not to rain on everybody's parade. So happy Memorial Day.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll start off with this one because Freeze and I had a very interesting conversation yesterday talking about the Schmeiser 60-round magazine. I guess I got to preface it by saying that he hasn't shot it yet. So
no,
but
no.
anyway,
I mean, it could be a big turd. I mean,
well, 60-round magazines have that reputation.
Yeah, no. I mean, yeah. I mean, it could be great. It might not be. I don't know. I took a gamble, but it was short money.
Yeah.
A lot of these, like,
Well, hold on. How much?
60 round.
How much was it for the listener? What's short money?
I don't remember if it was $49 or $59.99.
Oh, that's pretty expensive. Okay.
Well, but most your like snail drums and shit are like $129, $139.
No, that's like the gold-plated toilet on Donald Trump's airplane. I mean, that's just terrible.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, I'm not willing to spend over $100 on a 60-round snail drum because I know they don't work.
Yeah.
But I thought, well, you know what? This is a box magazine. It might work.
It might,
and it wasn't that expensive. So what the hell? I'll go for it.
When and this is, I guess there's a everybody's got an opinion on these kinds of magazines, and I don't really pay too much attention to them. But when you first saw this magazine, you sent me, when I say you saw this product, you sent me the link, and you were, hey, check this out, and I couldn't help but feel that part of the appeal was you being a dyed-in-the-wool milsurp collector. How often do you get to buy something that says Schmeiser on it and it doesn't cost $25,000? So
that's a good point. That is a good point.
Yeah, I was like,
well, but okay, so it's made in Germany, not China. That's a bonus.
So they say.
Well, yeah, I mean, it could be made in China with a made in Germany tag. Who the hell knows anymore? But I mean, it's a novelty item. And look, the truth is, even if this thing does work, is this going to be my primary magazine? No, but it's a novelty item. But you know what? If it runs good in the pistol, might not be a bad mag to throw in the truck to have on the truck gun.
Sure. I mean, I guess the theory, the way I look at it, my opinion isn't the end-all be-all opinion because I really haven't thought about these kinds of mags. But if you look at a standard AR magazine as being 30 rounds, and everybody, everybody's got them. They were, let's say, and their reliability rate is, you measure that in 100%, but that's the standard, and that's 100. And so, a 60-round box mag or coffin mag or whatever cute term you want to use for them. Okay. Number one, it has to, like, let's say from a military standpoint, to make it worth its while, it has to work at least 100%, and maybe it does or maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's 95%. Like maybe it's damn close, but maybe not quite 100%. So, but let's just say it does 100%. Here's the other problem from the military standpoint. Military or, large organizations, they buy magazines by the freight carload. And they're paying, I don't know, let's say they're paying $4 a mag or $3 a mag or whatever the number is, it doesn't matter. If a 60-round box mag is $8 and the 30-round mags are $4 and they do the same thing, and you're not getting any more reliability, and what's the real advantage? Because you can take 30 rounds and connect them or tape them, but then the other thing is, for all that goodness, you now have a magazine that maybe doesn't fit in all the mag pouches. So
yeah,
if you have a need for 60 rounds and you want to keep them on board, you can tape magazines together, or for a civilian who wants a 60-round box magazine and keep the gun in his truck or gun in his closet, yeah, why not? I mean, you're not carrying it. Generally, it's not that bad of an idea. I mean, why not? It's America.
Again, it's a novelty item for me. And I like the price point, and I like the name, and and it's like, what the hell? I'll jump on it.
Yeah, and it's.
Realistically, would I have been better off taking the $50 or $60 and bought a half a dozen PMags? Yeah, but what the hell?
Well, but we had this conversation, and we're not gear reviewers, and I think people are kind of figuring that out a little bit. But we are people, and if there's something, people have reached out to us and have said, "Hey, would you want to look at something?" And generally, it's like, I don't know, but because the unwritten rule is, if I want your shit, I'll buy your shit, and you wanted this product. And it will be interesting. Like, okay, let's say it works. And, we're not testing it at like the National Training Center in California, but let's just say it works. Like, you put it in whatever your gun is. Let's say you put it in a regular full-size AR and you're like, hey, dude, seems to work. And we're like, okay, let's see if it works in your pistol, which will have a higher gas port pressure and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And be like, oh, that's interesting. It's like, let's put it in a suppressed AR and see if it works.
Yeah, my guess is no.
I think a suppressed AR is going to be tough. I think dude, a normal fucking magazine has a hard time working in a suppressed AR.
Yeah, PMags have a hard time being 100% reliable in that suppressed AR. But you know what though? I mean, who knows?
Yeah, who knows? You never know.
Well, maybe that was a good purchase before they limit mag capacity. You could have a grandfather in there too.
Well, what they might do is they might say anything over 30. Anything over 30 rounds is illegal, and it's not grandfathered in. Because I'll tell you what, I've already seen kind of grumblings with this. They eventually will try to come after belt-fed semi-automatic guns. That'll come. That'll absolutely come.
Sure, but I mean, because everyone knows all these huge mass shootings are done with belt-fed semi-automatic firearms.
I know you're being sarcastic, but the thing is, there was that shooting. There was that shooting in Vegas, and the thing is, it is more firepower. And
it is more firepower. Yes, but
it looks mean.
What kind of did you hear what kind of weapon they had at the shooting at the air base the other day?
No, I haven't, honestly. I just heard, I have been so busy. I heard there was a active shooter, and then it kind of just went dark for me. And then they came out and said, "Oh, yep, the guy is it's terrorism." Right? Is that and apparently they also said the guy who shot up the the other base down there, from Saudi Arabia. Turns out he'd been talking to Al Qaeda too. The student from Saudi Arabia. So I don't know. They've had 2 of these now.
No one's reporting on them though, are they?
Yeah, they're not. I don't know what kind of gun he had or what it was. Is he even alive, Danny?
I haven't followed it, to be honest with you, and I really haven't dug into it. I don't know if they got him or what's going on. The only thing that came to my mind right away is, and I'm sure Freeze remembers this also, but you remember when, I believe it was the Obama administration, took the weapons away from military personnel on military bases, and it wasn't Trump that reinstated it to where they could be armed again?
I believe that is correct.
I believe that headline is correct, but I don't believe it was. I don't believe it was implemented that way. I know that base commanders have a lot of autonomy and a lot of authority as to how they want private weapons to be handled on their facilities. And I don't know how that was actually resolved. I think that may have been something where Donald Trump said something, the media ran a headline, and then the Pentagon did whatever the Pentagon was going to do, and nobody caught it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, and that's probably more correct.
I remember
So I
reading
just don't
something.
Hey, Freeze, you remember we had to go to this military base, and we were armed, and so we rented a room at this Flophouse crack hotel across the street from the base just so we could drop our guns off.
I do recall that.
And then we came back, and the guy was like, "What? Like probably thought we were like a gay couple. Like, yeah, we're checking out. We're done."
Yeah,
What?
we did our hour. You know, we were only on the base for what, an hour and a half.
Yeah, I think probably about an hour. It took a lot longer to get everything loaded up, but yeah, it was
Well,
probably an hour and a half.
You know, Danny, let me tell you about this because this is actually a pretty fun story. So on the way down, we knew we couldn't carry our gear onto the base. So we're going down, and Marky's like, well, we could pull off the side of the roads. And he said, I could just run them into the woods. And I'm like, no. So we're getting closer to the base, and we're driving around, and there's this like culvert pipe. And he's like, yeah, well, maybe we could just in a culvert pipe here. And
I
it's
forgot
like,
about the culvert pipe.
Yeah.
I was going to put an Ed Brown 1911 in a culvert pipe.
Yeah. So anyway, we ended up doing the hotel thing, which is fine. So we do our business on the base. We come back, go to the hotel, get our gear, and head onto the road. As we're heading out, the culvert pipe, there's a dude down there with the weed trimmer trimming the grass in the culvert pipe. And it's like, well, that turned out to be a pretty wise decision not to do that.
Holy shit. I forgot all about that. I totally forgot about the culvert pipe. I blacked it out of my mind.
Well, it gets better because then once we hit the highway, that section of woods it's like, well, maybe we can pull off and hide guns. There was a goddamn chain gang cleaning garbage on the side of the street. Like, well, it definitely was a good idea not to put our guns there.
Oh my God. I forgot about the chain gang.
Well, the only thing that would have made it better is if your hotel had swords in it.
Oh, dude, this flop house, there was a samurai sword somewhere in that fucking building. I guarantee it. I don't care if it was broken in half in a toilet. It was in there.
And it wasn't a good samurai sword. It was like a Trader's World samurai sword.
Yeah. Oh my God. The chain gang. Jesus, it was in was that Alabama?
Alabama, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my. Yeah, because I mean, like, how many states have chain gangs? Like, these guys, weren't they chained?
Oh, they were chained, and they were in gray and black. They had the black stripes on the uniform, and they were all chained together. It literally chain gang.
They were not fucking around. Like, man, I'll tell you what, don't be breaking the laws down there. And it wasn't, it is, I mean, it was an equal opportunity chain gang.
I have actually seen that in the Deep South myself.
Yeah. I'll tell you the best chain gang thing that I've ever heard of was Sheriff Joe's chain gang.
Oh, with the pink underwear?
Yeah, well, I don't. Yeah, actually, they did wear pink underwear, but when you screwed up in Sheriff Joe's jail, you got sent to 30 days in the cooler, as the Germans used to say. The only way to get back into jail was to do a stint on the chain gang. So, you had kids, you had adults. It was an equal opportunity chain gang. But here's the thing. It was an all voluntary chain gang. Because, it's like you either do your full time in solitary, or you can get out early if you volunteer for the chain gang.
Yeah, do good time.
And yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But that's a hard lesson to learn, because if you screw up in his tent jail, you go to solitary, which is basically a metal box in the desert. And in order to get out, you got to volunteer for the chain gang to rotate back into the tent jail. And that's a lesson that a lot of bad guys are gonna. It's like, okay, well, the next time I decide to spit on the guard, I might want to think about what it's going to take to get back into the jail.
Yeah. Yeah.
Could you imagine a chain gang in that hot Arizona desert?
Hey,
Oh, I think didn't they have wasn't it like they had army tents? Like they had large MASH, like from the
yeah,
TV show MASH. They
yeah,
had large
they were
tents.
they were surplus tents. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
He didn't spend a lot of money building that camp.
Well,
I mean,
I love Sheriff Joe in his jail. I mean, you know, uh, everyone used to wear like pink underwear. There was a lot of pink there, and I watched like a program about him in his jail years ago, and they asked him, it's like, why pink? And his response was, because they don't like it.
Well, he was pardoned by Trump for doing something I can't remember.
He was.
I don't even remember. Yeah,
I don't remember what he got charged with, but yes, he was indeed pardoned by Trump, like real early on.
Yeah.
In the
well, it was a political hit job on him.
Yeah, but I don't remember exactly what they got him for.
Neither do I.
I don't know.
Yeah, I've heard he's actually running for office again. Since he's pardoned, he can now. I don't know if he's running for sheriff or he's trying to run for, dog catcher, but he's apparently running for office. And I don't know the politics in Arizona that well, but I have heard grumblings. See, here's the thing. I think this is what I've heard. I don't know if this is true. His reputation outside of Arizona is way more popular than it is inside of Arizona. People like Republicans I've heard that live in Arizona are kind of tired of Sheriff Joe, and they think he's hurting their brand statewide and is contributing to them maybe losing the state. That's a theory I've heard. I don't know if it's true.
Yeah, I don't know. I honestly, he's been kind of like out of the public eye for a while, at least my public eye anyway. I don't know. Maybe he's.
But in Cincinnati, we certainly do know we all recall of a sheriff who was the sheriff here for a very long time, who basically decided to make himself judge, jury, and arbiter of all things right and wrong, and kept inserting himself into these national stories or creating national stories like Danny, the Larry Flint movies. Remember those People versus Larry Flint movies?
Right.
That all's true. That all happened here.
Really?
Yeah.
That's all true. We know all the people involved.
Oh yeah.
Including Larry Flint.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. We know Larry.
Larry Flint.
I remember the first time I dealt with Larry, I was requested to come have a meeting with him, and he was in a gold-plated wheelchair, and he had this guy must have been a cop, but he wasn't a cop from around here. And there was this security, and he had this horrible fitting like G-Man brown suit, and he had an Uzi under his suit. You could just tell by the barrel. And I actually think it was a 16-inch semi-automatic Uzi, but he had it under his suit. I was like, that's a little fucking odd. That's more for show than go, but okay, whatever. Well, dude's in a gold-plated wheelchair.
If you want that gold-plated wheelchair, you got to deal with that 16-inch semi-automatic.
Well, didn't Larry Flint run for some type of political office at one time, or was contemplating?
I don't.
I think he did. I don't.
Where? Georgia, maybe.
I don't recall where or what it was for, but I do believe I recall he did run for office somewhere.
That's what I thought. The only thing that I honestly know about Cincinnati is that I've heard the river froze over once and they mixed their spaghetti and chili. That's the only thing I know about that town.
You are 100% accurate. That is true. Their chili here makes no goddamn sense.
It's the best chili in the freaking world.
It's spaghetti with chocolate and cinnamon in it.
What?
Yeah,
Yes.
the chili has chocolate and cinnamon in it. It's the best chili.
I don't think the people in Cincinnati know it has chocolate and cinnamon in it. They just know it's the secret. It's the secret chili.
Do they sell much of it?
Oh, fuck.
Thousands
God, yeah.
of gallons a day.
Oh, dude, there's two companies there's like two separate restaurant chains that sell.
No. There's three. You've got
Gold Star,
Skyline, and Dixie Chili over in Kentucky.
Oh, I didn't.
Those are the chains. And then there's dozens of little independent, like Price Hill Chili, Camp Washington Chili. I mean, yeah,
I'm going to have to try that. There's a Skyline. When we go on vacation down in Florida, I see one, and I've never pulled in there. But we go down on the ocean side of Florida, and a lot of, New Yorkers, Pennsylvania, Ohio people there. That place is always packed.
Okay, go ahead. Get yourself a small 4-way with onions, not beans, and 1 cheese coney. You'll thank me later.
Here is my advice. Here is my warning.
Warning.
Here's my warning about Cincinnati chili. It can be a lot like Taco Bell, and what I mean by that is, like, I've gone to Taco Bell and been like, you know what? I don't normally eat fast food, but I'm gonna, you know what? I like some Mexican, and I love some like shredded beef and like something, I could eat fast when I'm driving, and like I'll, like once in like 5 years I'll go to Taco Bell. I'll order like something that's like a beef something that I can hold in my hand, and you take a bite out of it, and there's no beef in it. It's all refried beans.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the fuck? And here's the thing. Cincinnati chili is the same way. If you want chili and you're expecting a bunch of meat in it, like protein, like in Texas or Louisiana or in, you're gonna be upset. You're gonna be like, what the fuck is this?
No, the chili is very thin in
spaghetti.
Yeah, it's not like a Texas style chili. There is no chunks in it. It's almost like if you took Texas style chili and blended it into a liquid. And that's not really accurate, but there is no chunks in this chili at all. It's watery and smooth, but it is oh so good.
Oh, I'll try it.
It's
you don't sound positive there, Danny. It's like, I guess I'll try.
It's when I come down, you guys will have to run me over by one. We'll try it.
Well, let me put it this way. Eating here, there is an upside there. There is an upside. You never have to worry about eating a Cincinnati style chili and like screaming in the bathroom later. Like, like that won't happen. There's no there will be no warnings like, hey man, you liking your chili? Oh man, this is awesome. Like, I was in Louisiana once and I was eating this stuff and they're like, hey man, you may want to slow down on that. I'm like, oh no, I'm good. A couple hours later, I was like, oh baby. that will not happen with Skyline. That German chili is spaghetti with chocolate in it. It's not Pedro isn't behind the building, they've been cooking some shit for like a week that's gonna burn a hole right through you.
You should have washed it down with some White Castles. Now then you would have been a man.
Dude, the only time I ever go to White Castles is to recover stolen guns. So that's the only time.
I tell you what, I don't go to White Castle a lot. I don't eat it a lot. About once every 2 years, maybe, I'll go through there and I'll get a couple double cheese castles. Because I like I do. I like them.
What the hell's a cheese castle?
Well, it's just basically like a White Castle hamburger with a slice of cheese on it, but it's a double. So it's got 2 slices of meat and 3,
three pickles.
And like 3 pieces of bread. There's a bottom bun, a top bun, and a real thin little center bun. But it's got 2 pieces of meat on it and it's a cheese castle because it's got cheese on each slice of meat. Man, I'll grab like 2 of those, and they are so good. But I don't eat them a lot. I don't. With the exception of Skyline, I really don't eat fast food. I don't like McDonald's. I don't like Wendy's. Arby's blows. Chick-fil-A is crap.
Hold on.
Uh-oh.
Wait. I have to tell my Arby story. Freeze. I got to tell the Arby story. I totally forgot about it.
Okay.
I told you right. So, this happened a couple days ago. Mr. Like, I don't eat fast food. I ate Arby's. It's been pretty busy around here. So I was at the range, and I was, working on a bunch of stuff and shooting and training, and then, maintenance, and I was even filming some stuff. And so I had gone into town, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to get some Arby's, because some of the restaurants are open where this is at, and I was like, I'll just get some roast beef sandwiches and just eat that. So I if you ever see me in person, it's not something I'm really proud of, but I eat like a dog. And what I mean by that is I eat so fast, I wolf food down. I'm just so used to that's the way my life always worked. So I'm like, if you need, so I'm in the truck.
That's true. That's very true. It's kind of scary.
Yeah, I wolf food down. Like I could, I eat extremely fast, like a prisoner. And I got 2 of these roast half. I don't know what they're larger sandwiches, not the little ones. Boom, 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 boom. Couple bottles of water. Boom. Head back up to the range. Pull the truck into the pit and back up. Do whatever. And I'm walking off to the side, and I pull out the Wilson X9 gun, that 1911, with the big red dot on it. And I'm looking down at the red dot, and I'm looking, and there's like something wrong with the red dot. It's like a big bug or something on. I'm looking. I'm like, what the fuck is that? It looks like a turd. And I'm like, well, that can't be a turd. And I'm like, is that like a moth or a dead bug? And I realized, oh my God, it's a piece of Arby's roast beef sandwich. So if I had gotten into a gunfight and had to whip my gun out, I would have thrown it up. There might have been, at best case scenario, the roast beef piece would have fallen away as I took my shot, or I would have thrown it up and been a big
old
piece
fucking
of beef. Yeah, of like gray ass Cisco beef.
Well,
so
I'm sure it's all.
I think a lot of.
So
go ahead, Freeze.
No, so this is years and years ago. Marky may not even remember this, but this was back when he was still working. So he swings by my, I was at work, and he worked nights then too, and he swings by, and I just ordered this double-decker. It was a ham and ham double-decker from a local restaurant. And Danny, let me tell you, these double-deckers, there's enough meat on there to make 4 sandwiches.
Wow.
I mean, I usually order one, I eat half of it, wrap the other half up, and eat it later, So he swings by, and I'm like, hey, I got this double decker. I'm like, hey, Marky, you want half this? And he's like, yeah, sure, I'm hungry. So, I got a call, and I took the call. And then when I got done with the call, I looked over. I'm like, where's that sandwich? And he's like, oh, I ate it already. I'm like, damn, dude. It's like you killed that sandwich in like a minute and a half.
And if you imagine giving that sandwich to a golden retriever in his bowl and how he would eat it, that's about how I eat it. It's about how I go: chomp, chomp, swallow, chomp, chomp, swallow.
It must be contagious, because I eat the same way. Because, well, as you two know, in my previous life, we were always busy. A lot of times I didn't have time.
I was busy. Especially third shift.
Oh, yeah,
Freeze
always.
still works thirds. I worked thirds my whole career. You probably worked a lot of thirds.
Mostly,
and,
yes, I did.
Yeah, and, you're not sitting around fucking around at night.
No.
Yeah,
you got shit to do.
No,
you don't have time. You're short. You got shorter staff, more work to do, and you're expected to get it all done.
and more shit can go wrong, which was what happened. So all of a sudden shit pops up and you're like, I'm in the middle of a nightmare here.
You know, speaking about fast food, I think that they're going to really have to raise their prices because you see there's a meat shortage.
Dude, I saw a story today that they said, maybe we talked about it, but they're talking about it again. They say hunting is increasing in the U.S. because of meat shortages.
See, I saw that headline, but I did not actually read it. And I mean, right now, what hunting seasons are even open?
That's what I was kind of wondering. I'm like, I mean, turkey, like we had some turkey hunters near the range the other day. I think they were over there hunting.
I think spring turkey was around. It's too early for squirrel season. Deer season's long gone. I mean, there's open seasons for like coyote and shit, but who the hell eats those nasty ass dogs?
Well,
you know, so I mean, they're saying, hunting's increasing because of the meat shortage. I don't buy it because there's no hunting unless people are like illegally hunting.
Hold on, Freeze. I got to send you a photograph. I sent this to Danny. I think it was last night. I found a photograph of I think it's the governor of North Dakota. And
yeah, you said it.
This may have been like a year or two ago. And so, she's like governor of North Dakota. I mean, so she's not like the governor of, Connecticut. I mean, she's probably a little bit more country. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, she's standing there. She's an attractive woman, and she's standing next to another governor. They're at a meet and greet with a presser, and this governor is wearing this full-length coyote fur coat.
Was it the governor of Texas that shot the coyote while he was out jogging a few years back?
This thing looked like like you used to see the
pimp coat, the fur pimp coats.
Well, no, this went all the way down, like the Matrix movies. Where, they wear those long black coats.
Yeah,
this thing literally went down to the dude's ankles.
Yeah, pimp coat. And like the old 70s pimps with the fur coats.
Yeah, must have been 30 coyotes to make this thing. And I was like, dude, I need to be a full length coyote fur coat. I mean, I'm like, I know a bunch of cops right now that are doing animal deprivation, and it's like I know that they have limitations as to what they can do with the stuff, but it's like, dude, we should make us a coyote fur coat. We probably can't. But I was like, oh man, I mean, you'd have to shoot a fuck ton of coyotes.
That'd be a $10,000 coat. By the time you have all those hides processed, then you got to find a tailor that's willing to sew this damn thing up to where it looks good. Not just a bunch of coyotes sewn together. It's got to be
Freeze. When you see this picture, you'll probably remember it looks like the 1970s Willie Dynamite pimp. It's one of those coats.
There you go. Okay, I'll look at it as soon as we get done here. If you texted it, did you text it?
Yeah, you know what? Let me. I'll see if I can send it to you now.
You send it through email because I can't. I don't mess with my phone when we're recording.
No, don't ever mess with your phone. You're on the shit list if you do. I learned that.
Yeah, speaking of shit list, I heard somebody's Apple phone chime in.
No, mine
wasn't mine.
It's not mine.
I don't use Apple crap, so it wasn't me.
Well, ever since I got my ass reamed, first thing I do is when I get the warning, the do not disturb button is checked, double checked, and triple checked.
Yeah, but how close is your tablet?
I'm on the other end of the house, and they're over at the other end of the house on their iPads. But I'm in a door shut room, Hey, real quick, speaking about the meat shortage, last week we went to the grocery store and hamburger was $2.99 a pound. Yesterday, $5.99 a pound.
Holy
That's
shit.
Crazy. No, and it's crazy because we were at the grocery store I don't know, 2-3 days ago, and we experienced the same thing. I mean, I was I was looking at these, the ground beef patties that are already made in the patties. They come,
right.
like 6-8 of them in a pack. I was looking at those, and it was like for like 8 patties, it was like $12 or something like that. And it's just like, no, I don't think so. I mean, that's crazy.
Do you think it's price?
I mean,
could it be price gouging because people are playing this COVID up?
You know, on some level, probably, but okay, like the masks that everyone has to wear. You know, you go into the pharmacy or any, you know, you go into Kroger's and you go into their pharmacy section where they have all the medical crap. You know, you used to be able to buy like a 10 or a 12 pack of masks for, you know, for like, you know, $5.99. Well, now, you know, like a 20 pack is like $12.99, but the cost on them is like $8. I mean, so it's kind of like, yeah, I'm sure. I mean, it's going to be the new standard. Buying from here going forward, buying masks for $6 is never going to get. It's never going to go back to that.
Well, we actually had somebody approach us wanting to sell those masks. Like they sent us an email saying, "Hey, I guess they were wholesalers for like they were trying to target preppers, and so they figured John 1911 might because we're gun guys, and so they sent this email over, and you know, hey, this is an opportunity. We've got this product, and it was a KN95 mask, and I'm looking at that, and I'm like." I've heard of the N95s, like we have some. What's KN95? So I typed in KN95. Turns out the K in KN means it was built to Chinese government standards. If they're made in China. And they're and like you see all these reports coming out of Europe and coming out of, you know, all over that people are buying these Chinese masks that don't work. And I told this guy, I said, fuck, miss me with your fucking cheap Chinese fucking fake bullshit. I was like, you know, PSA, if you're out there and you're buying a KN95 mask, it probably doesn't work.
No. Well, and most of the masks that you see people wearing don't work either. Because most of the masks that you buy are just to keep body fluids from getting in your mouth and nose and keeping your body fluids from spraying on other people. But it's not filtered enough to stop a virus. I mean,
kind of like Studio 54, like in the 70s. You know, like you just had to keep the body fluids from dropping down onto the dance floor.
Pretty much.
It wasn't really to protect you, it was to protect other people.
You know, I mean, the bullshit masks people are wearing, the homemade masks, the bandanas, none of that shit works. None of that is going to stop you from getting COVID. It's just not. I mean,
as a matter of fact, I see people in masks every day, and almost without exception, they're non-medical masks. It's like I don't know where they're getting them, but it's, you know, they're. Like, I saw a girl today, she was all black, and she had a black mask to match her all black outfit. I was like, okay. I mean, you go, girl. I mean, it's like... look, when the CDC announced, go ahead and use bandanas because, you know, there was no masks to be bought in stores. All that is a false sense of security to basically make the general public feel good about themselves. You know, it's kind of like, you know, the Germans. Okay, everyone, we're going to take a shower now.
Oh, that's cold.
Oh my
that's
God.
Cold.
Oh, we just walked right into that.
Yeah. All we missed was the indoctrination.
You know, look at it. Just Google, what do they call them? Virologists, people that, you know, work with viruses and, you know, and all that shit. Look at the goddamn outfits. They're in a full-blown suit with respirators hooked up to an air tube, bringing in outside air. And yeah. But, you know, your bandana's just as good.
Yeah,
shit.
They look like they're from the movie The Andromeda Strain.
Well, and indeed is what they are. You know, they're wearing those full freaking suits, their isolation suits. But your bandana's just as good.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You know, they got their full body suit on and they're arguing to the talking computer, the HOW 9000. Dave, I'm scared. It's like, how? It'll be fine. Please set the course to 12742. It's like, I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, like a lot of the stuff, it's security theater, almost like the airport. And so, but like even now, like I guess there is a big debate. Remember how I told everybody? I said, look, the greatest thing about this is that everybody eventually gets to be right. You know, oh, it's no big fucking deal. This is all bullshit. And then it's like, oh my God, this is fucking crazy. We're all going to die. And now we're into the whole, well, the models were wrong. This is whatever. Dr. Fauci was a goat. He's a hero. Now he was a goat. You know what I mean? It's like now it's, oh, the average person that dies from COVID is like 81. The average, what are the extremes of that? Like, you can have a 12-year-old that could pull that down, but you know, like, are there people old? Are there enough people old enough to even get an average that's 81? That's unbelievable. I can't believe it's that high.
Well, look, the same people that are dying of COVID are the same people that would have died from the common flu. Because, you know, we lose, 50, 60,000 people a year due to the flu. No one ever freaks out about that.
The flu will kill me one day. Like, for real. Like, I'm one of those people. The flu fucking knocks me on my ass.
Oh, me too.
Always has.
I mean, if I die, if the AIDS doesn't kill me, the flu will.
Picking up all those needles in the parking lot. I warned you about that shit.
Yeah. Well, hey, the best thing about picking up the needles, it's licking the residue off the tip.
Well,
yeah. Hey, this one's not even rusty. Let's go ahead. It might be reusable.
Oh, hell, I can reuse this. Let me suck up some rainwater out of this puddle to see if there's any residue left in the chamber. Yeah.
You know that shit happens.
No, I've seen that. I've actually seen that. Oh, there might be some residue left in this needle. Oh, yeah. Let's suck up some rainwater and flush that through our veins. See if we can get high.
Well, you know what I find amazing is that the social distancing, 6 foot. COVID stops, I guess, at 6 foot. It doesn't go 6'1" or 6'2", according to the experts. And COVID does not go into mom and pop stores. I mean, it will go into mom and pop stores, but it doesn't go into Target, Home Depot, or Walmart or anything like that. It's a very intelligent disease, isn't it?
Well, look, we're all older here. Like, I'm 48, I think. Freeze, how old are you? 50, 52?
No, I'll be 55 this year.
55.
High school. You shut up.
High school.
So, Danny's in 81%. The 80.
Danny gets
bracket.
Danny gets special pricing at Golden Corral 3 p.m. So, but my point is, we remember when AIDS was like, oh my God, like,
oh yeah,
like the gay, like they called it the gay flu, like,
disease. Don't drink after that guy, you'll get the AIDS.
People didn't want to be in the same room. Like, first they even denied it was real. They didn't even know what it was. They thought maybe it's, maybe it's contaminated bathhouse water. Like, they didn't want to shake hands. They didn't want to be like, people didn't know how AIDS worked. And see, the thing is, everybody today knows how AIDS works. Like, we've met celebrities, or we know celebrities like some of the 5'1" football or basketball players.
Johnson.
Like, we know what we're dealing with. But there was a time in the 80s when it was like everybody was freaked the fuck out. And that's what's happening right now with COVID. Everybody, like, they came out today and said, oh yeah, the U.S. government, National Institutes of Health are saying that they don't believe that COVID it transmits very well on hard surfaces now. So all of that, like sanitizing and touching and like the gas pump, they're like, yeah, we don't think it really transmits that way. Now, here's the thing. Next week or in the fall, it'll be like, oh my God, you gotta, dude, I'm seeing ads on Instagram for a product it looks like a bottle opener. It's made out of brass. Have any of you guys seen this? And it's got a hook on it and a loop. And so they show it, the guys at the gas pump punching in his zip code for his gas pump. Then he's hooking the loop. He's hooking he's using the hook on a door handle to open up a door handle going into a public store. And the idea being this item is made out of brass. And apparently COVID does not live long or at all on brass. And so
how do they even know that?
I think they've done studies. I've even heard, now I have heard that in the past. They said, because remember like a lot of these old federal buildings, a lot of these old government buildings had a lot of brass. They had brass doors, brass banisters, brass, mailboxes, and everything was brass. Well, apparently because that corrosion that happens to brass, you have the copper and you have to polish it. Apparently that is a natural antibiotic. Like viruses will live on that, but it's like maybe an hour or maybe 15 minutes or 30 minutes. And so,
So what you're saying, if a bar has a brass foot rail, it shouldn't even be closed right now.
Exactly. You know what? As a matter, you need to go in the diviest ass old bar with a bunch of brass and cigarette smoke in it, or cigar smoke, and you're going to be fine. But no one knows what the fuck's going on.
Yeah.
Well, all I know is I know about as much as COVID as Biden knows about his VP pick.
Good segue.
Yeah. So basically, I have no clue.
I have breaking news. I have breaking news on Joe Biden's vice presidential pick.
Okay.
Danny, what's the name of the woman, the black woman from Georgia? Stacey Abrams. Apparently, Stacey Abrams has come out and said that if she is chosen as vice president, not as vice presidential nominee, that she will resign her position as governor of Georgia.
Wow, that's cool.
Look, Biden. Even Biden's not dumb enough to pick that wing nut, but God, I almost would love to see him pick her, dude. Seriously, do you realize how destroyed she would be in a debate?
Oh my God, she is. Her entire life is about grievance. I don't
think she's ever been elected to a real office.
No, she has. She held a. She was a Kentucky a Georgia state congresswoman, in their state house.
Okay.
And I think at one point she was an author. She wrote softcore porn. She's been what else did she do? She's done a few different things. But she's had not been successful politically. And
wingnut, that's why.
Oh, I'll tell you, my favorite was when they floated. This is where, because I tell everybody no one's going to jail. Well, they floated Dr. Susan Rice, former National Security Advisor under Barack Obama, and then they floated who's the acting Attorney General for the first few weeks of Donald Trump. What's her name, Danny? Yates, Sally Yates. They were floating Sally Yates, and it's like, look, okay, all right, look, here's a couple things here. It's like, okay, number one, Sally Yates, she's a career, prosecutor. I think she's from Georgia as well, off the top of my head. But she's worked as on the federal, state level in the justice departments, and that's her area. She's not really a politician that I would normally think. why name her? But now, Susan Rice, yeah, she's a political animal. She's very highly educated, PhD. She was supposed to be Secretary of State. She was the Assistant Secretary of State under Hillary Clinton until Benghazi,
until they screwed her.
Yeah, and then they basically, Hillary either was incapacitated or wouldn't come out and talk about it. So they said, "Hey, Susan, go out and talk about this shit." And she's the one that said all the
movie, the video bullshit.
Yeah, she blamed all that on the attacks and said it wasn't Al Qaeda and it wasn't from 9/11. And so, politically, there was no way she was going to pass confirmation in the Senate to become Secretary of State. It ruined her. And so they were like, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to make you the National Security Advisor because that's an executive position. You work directly for the president. It's a non-confirmed job. And so you can work in the White House and we're going to take care of you. And it's interesting that even in that job, she may have made herself vulnerable to prosecution. And so now they want to make her vice president candidate. So she's now immune from prosecution again because they don't want to interfere with the outcome of an election during a presidential campaign season if she's on the ticket. I was even like my brain, I was like, these motherfuckers are playing chess and I'm fucking playing checkers. I didn't see that one coming. I was like, wow.
Marky, I'll disagree with you because she could still be prosecuted because she is not vice president yet. Just because you're a candidate does not let you off the hook.
Well, here's the problem with that, and this goes back to the Jim Comey problem. Jim Comey has two problems. There's an unwritten rule in the Department of Justice, and the rule is, 18 months, a year, but 18 months, they're not going to engage in prosecutions that they feel would have caused undue burden to candidates who are in the midst of an election, because the fact that they would get involved in it could sway public opinion. So there's this gentleman's agreement that they kind of stay hands off. Well, here's the problem. That's always kind of been in place. So there's this agreement like, okay, for example, like George W. Bush. Nobody's ever, George Bush stole, I'm just repeating talking points from the left. George Bush stole the election. George Bush is not my president. George Bush is a war criminal. George Bush lied about weapons of mass destruction. If all of that is true, and they believe it to be true, why haven't they brought George Bush up on charges since he was president? Or why haven't they taken him? Why hasn't there been a warrant for his arrest from The Hague?
Because no one's opening that door, because every president from here to the end of the country would be prosecuted after they got out of office.
Exactly. And so here's the problem. And Donald Trump is aware of this as well. And so Jim Comey was, let's go back in time. The Attorney General in the summer of 2016 was Loretta Lynch. Okay. She was a real beaut. Use a Donald Trump phrase, and Hillary Clinton's being investigated because there's all this bullshit going on with her fucking email servers, and so there's this secret fucking meeting between Loretta Lynch, the Attorney General, and Bill Clinton on a tarmac in Arizona, like 3,000 miles away from Washington, thinking that nobody's going to figure out that they had a meeting, and so. But it's not that hard to figure out where a former president is and where the acting attorney or the attorney general is because of continuity of government. Like, you need to know where the fucking attorney general is at. It wasn't hard to figure out these two people were at a small ass fucking airport. And so Bill Clinton came out and said, "Oh, we talked about our grandchildren. We didn't talk about anything." I was like, "Oh, hey, Loretta, what are you doing here? Let's come on my plane and have a conversation." So she was forced to recuse herself from the Hillary Clinton
Yes,
matter.
I do.
Do you remember that, Danny? She recused herself. So she's no longer allowed to make a decision on Hillary Clinton. So instead of having an assistant attorney general like a Sally Yates, for some reason, Jim fucking Comey comes out. He's not the prosecutor. He's not the attorney general. He's the head of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. They investigate crimes. They do not prosecute crimes. So he comes out and he gives a press conference, and he says he says Hillary Clinton did a lot of bad things, but it's not criminal. She showed poor judgment, but we're not going to prosecute her. And they cited, basically gave her an out. And he's not the fucking attorney general. And so he interfered with the election. That's interference number one. And that kind of there was a lot of pressure on all of them to put this fucking email thing behind them. So here we are. Then you go into, it's now, October 2016. And Anthony Weiner and Uma Abedin in New York are getting their computers torn apart because Anthony Weiner likes little girls. And so the FBI gets on his computer and finds a bunch of Hillary Clinton emails. The FBI office goes, we have a bunch of Hillary Clinton emails here that nobody supposedly has. This goes to Jim Comey, and he's like, Jim Comey decides, holy fuck. Here's the problem. This is not over. They have the emails. They can now no longer deny what's in them. The chain of custody has been established. It's not like they're just disappearing. And he's got a choice. He can either tell people now and affect the outcome of the election, or he can hold it and wait till after the election, and then everybody's going to accuse him of not telling people what was going on. And so here's what he does. He doesn't want to do either one of those. So he gets this bright idea. He goes, I'm going to do my duty, and I'm going to inform the proper oversight committees in both the House and the Senate, the judicial oversight committees, that this investigation may still be on. So he sends memos to the chairman and ranking and members of each of those committees, and sends memos to the speaker, the minority leader, and the heads of the who's the head of the Senate? I'm having a brain fart. Mitch McConnell is the majority leader, and then there's the minority leader in the Senate. So it's like 12 copies of this fucking letter.
So basically, you're saying he inadvertently just sent it to the Washington Post.
He didn't inadvertently. He knew it would get out. And that way it leaks out. And so here's what happened. This thing fucking blows up like fucking 10 days before the election. And the entire country goes, oh my God, the fucking Clintons. Holy fuck, this fucking bitch. We're going to have fucking 4 years of more Clinton fucking bullshit. This is fucking crazy. That stupid bitch. I'm voting for Donald Trump. This is nuts. And there are going to be people that make the argument that he interfered by his actions in the presidential election. The Justice Department, Bill Barr, has come out and said, in so many words, he does not expect that Barack Obama will be criminally prosecuted. He does not expect that Joe Biden will be criminally prosecuted. You want to know why? Because we're not going to prosecute presidents and vice presidents and first ladies for all this kind of bullshit. They're going to get a pass just so we can have some sanity and people can retire. And they're trying not to do that again. And that's what they're trying to avoid. They're not if they put Dr. Rice on the ticket with Joe Biden, she gets a get out of jail free card.
Maybe Barr,
unless she loses the election. Unless she loses, doesn't become vice president and is prosecuted in 2021.
Hear me out on this though. Maybe Barr, he's a masterful, tactician. Maybe he is playing the chess game and throwing the dogs off the scent. Have you thought of it?
You are dreaming. Bill Barr believes in look, Bill Barr. Okay, all right. Let's have another conversation. Let's change gears here for a minute. I'm just going to prove a point here. So let's talk about another one of these things in this orbit. Mike Flynn, right? 3-star general, former director of the Defense Intelligence Agency, national security advisor to Donald Trump for the first 2 weeks of his presidency, and also worked on the campaign as a national security advisor or as a foreign policy advisor during the campaign. And they got Flynn for a FARA violation. See, Flynn pled guilty. I was like, well, Flynn pled guilty. Well, what did he plead guilty to? He pled guilty because he did something with RT. He did something with Ukraine, but in particular, I think what they got him on is he did something with Turkey, like the Turkish government, like, hey, it's lobbying. We're going to hire you so you can. I think they wanted him to get Gulen freaking extradited, who might have been responsible for the coup thing in Turkey. And so he was taking money when they're saying he didn't register the right way, and they got him for this. Okay. And it's like, oh, he pled guilty. And it's like, we shouldn't do all that. That's interesting. Everybody that listens to this podcast worships General Mattis. Who the fuck do you think he started working for when he quit the United States Marine Corps and before he became Secretary of Defense? He started working for United Arab Emirates for a company over there. He got a job on one of their boards. If I recall, I could be mistaken, but he definitely got a job on one of these boards in one of these Middle Eastern defense think tank companies in one of these Middle Eastern countries because he wants to get fucking paid. They're not putting General Mattis in fucking jail.
Well, you have to remember, Obama fired Flynn at one time. Obama administration.
Oh, Flynn's. Oh, by the way,
right,
Flynn's
but Obama
a Democrat.
Fired him at one point, and
yeah.
Obama, does, for whatever reason, absolutely hated Flynn. So I still say that he was hands-on in getting Flynn through, let's just say, nefarious ways.
He was involved. But here's the thing. He won't be prosecuted for it, but, people around the president could be prosecuted. There's no reason why a Sally Yates or a Susan Rice or I don't know, here's one, H.R. Alderman or whatever the guys from Watergate can't be prosecuted. Of course, they're not going to prosecute Obama, but they can prosecute the people around the president if there's the will to do it. But it looks like if they put Susan Rice on Biden's ticket, he gets a black female, gets him out of his mess with Stacey Abrams. Also, there's a payoff to her to raise her standing. Maybe she'll be vice president. There's a chance. There is really a chance because she's a team player, because this is not a guarantee slam dunk that Trump's going to win this. And she's she'll be functionally immune from prosecution.
Gentlemen's agreement immune. Trump plays by different rules.
See, Danny, I think you're really trying. You're just trying your best to get someone executed.
I mean, if it were you, me, or Marky, we'd be getting 3 hots and a cot. But
okay, maybe so. But
we talked about this in a private text message a couple days ago. And if what you're saying is true, if Donald Trump plays by different rules, why isn't the former director of the IRS, Kirk Corey, whatever his name was, the guy that they were bringing up? Lois Lerner got caught. She was targeting Tea Party groups. She was using federal tax code for political gain against the opposing party to help Barack Obama win re-election in 2012. She got caught. It finally came out. It was a big scandal. The Congress got involved. There was Sean Hannity, Fox News. They had hearings on it, and they brought this guy in from the IRS, and they're like, I want her emails. I want her computer. And he's like, we're working on it. I want her emails. I want her computer. Well, it's complicated. I want her emails. I want her computer. We're working on it. We're working on it. We're working on it months and months and months. And then it was, it looks like her looks like her computer was thrown out and her hard drive was it was erased, and just because normal just course of business, we wipe out old hard drives. And they're like, okay, we want that hard drive, and because we're going to send it over to the forensics people at the FBI. Well, let me get back to you on that. You know what? Turns out the hard drive was shredded. Here's my question to you, Danny. Why the fuck is that guy not in jail with Donald Trump being president? Nobody's fucking talking about that. Sean Hannity's not fucking talking about it. Nobody on the right's talking about it. So miss me with this bullshit that fucking Donald Trump is going to do anything about this. They're not. You
might have a valid point. Let's just say maybe I'm hoping against hope, because these crooked players just hurt me to no end.
Danny, man, I went down the same path you're going down with Marky over Eric Holder years ago. Just go ahead, suffice to say he's right. He's right. It's a waste of time to even argue with him about it, because I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not saying that what you're saying shouldn't happen, but it's just not going to.
Oh, well, hold on. Now, freeze. Hold on. Wait a minute. I remember, because we were making Chris Kyle shirts, and you're like, Eric Holder's going to prison. And you're like, this is it. Eric Holder's going to prison. And I was like, dude, there ain't no fucking way. I'll be like Joe Biden. Ain't no fucking way the first black fucking attorney general, Barack Obama's wingman, literally the quote, I'm Barack Obama's wingman, is going to fucking jail. Guys like Eric Holder, super powerful guys, super connected guys. Eric Holder's way more connected than Bill Barr. I'm sorry, I hate to break it to you, everybody, but Eric Holder's a player. There's no fucking way. So check this out. For Fast and Furious, not wide receiver under George Bush, Fast and Furious, open gun run, let guns flood into Mexico to allow innocent people to be killed, to create an international incident, so there will be impetus in a crisis, because don't let the crisis go to waste, to enact gun control in the United States and to possibly repeal the Second Amendment. That was the entire thing, the entire impetus of Fast and Furious out of the Justice Department. Eric Holder is personally responsible for the death of possibly hundreds of Mexican foreign nationals in a foreign country, and nothing's ever happened. We've never gone to war with Mexico. Mexico hasn't recalled their ambassador, hasn't sent our ambassador home, hasn't have frosty relations. And Eric Holder today is working probably at a law firm in Georgetown. And on top of that, this week, Freeze, the president of Mexico, Oberon, the commie, he officially inquired this week about, hey, can the U.S. government maybe tell me a little bit about Fast and Furious? It's 2020.
Yeah.
Fuck you. I mean, it's like, whatever.
Yeah. No, it is. I mean, I was totally convinced Eric Holder was going to be wearing pink underwear, but nope.
But nope. Think about. But hold on. Now, think about. Let's put. Because I know people. I'm partisan. I mean, I'm a conservative. I mean, I have problems with everybody. But let's just just think about this for a minute. Forget Flynn. Forget Rice. Forget the emails and the Russians and dealing with stealing elections and all this stuff. Forget all of that. Everyone's trying to get over on everybody else. Eric Holder deliberately sent weapons into a foreign country to create chaos and killed civilians. Nothing happened. Yep. Eric Holder, an argument can be made. If not Eric Holder, then somebody at the Justice Department should have an Interpol warrant out for their arrest, and they get grabbed in an airport in in Paris and end up in the docks in The Hague. It's bad. I mean, that Fast and Furious Eric Holder gun running thing is probably the most grievous criminal thing that I can think the U.S. government has done.
But MSNBC this week said that they reiterated once again that there was absolutely zero scandals
Yes,
during the
they
Obama
did.
administration.
Of course, yeah, zero scandals, yeah. I mean, but think about this, okay, in Iraq, there's combat, there's guys shooting at our people, we're shooting at them. There's collateral damage, accidents happen, things happen. Sometimes you have to make tough decisions. What did the people in Mexico do? What collateral damage? What was it that Eric Holder was trying to do that justified even putting their lives at risk, much as actually leading to their death? Like, there's no moral argument for this at all, and nobody talks about it. And here's the thing: Sean Hannity doesn't talk about it. Mark Levin doesn't talk about it. All these people that supposedly are like super into like our side, and it's like, fuck you guys.
Well, always remember, the party that lost 3,000 or 30,000 emails wants to be responsible for mail-in voting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point too.
You know what? Democratic votes go into a USPS tract envelopes, and GOP votes go into envelopes marked bleach bit.
Yeah. Well, you know what?
I think the GOP votes go into waste management.
I just read. I just read an article about this dude in Philadelphia who was he has something to do with the election committee or something in the state. And he just pleaded guilty to taking bribes for like 2014, 15, and 16 for padding the Democrat candidates' ballots.
Which is bizarre because I mean, like, are the Democrats like hurting for votes in Philadelphia?
Well, see, that's the crazy thing because it's Philadelphia.
It's going to be Democrat anyway.
I mean. Exactly. So why would a Democrat need to pay someone money to pad their ballots? Because unless it was one Democrat trying to beat another Democrat, I mean, I don't know. I don't know the background to it, but
corrupt politicians will always find a way for a reason for you to give them money. Have to pay them off. That's kind of how it works.
Living in Illinois.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Shit,
yeah.
Dave, did I ever tell you I used to? I think the statute of limitations is passed. Did I ever tell you that I used to carry a gun in Chicago?
What?
Have I ever said I used to carry a gun in Chicago?
You must have one hell of a connection to get a permit for the city of Chicago.
What permit?
Well, because our CCLs are not good in the city of Chicago. They don't recognize them.
Yeah, they don't recognize them. No, this was in well, I don't want to say when, but oh yeah, I used to have to go to Chicago on a fairly regular basis, and dude, I was packing, and I even interfaced with the Chicago cop once, and he was like, he saw it, and literally was like, the look on his face, he was like, I don't want to fucking deal with this. I didn't fucking see that. That's right, motherfucker.
The city of Chicago, they do everything they can. I stay away from there. I'm far removed from there, but I believe you can only have 10 rounds. You have to have your CCL, and I'm almost sure you have to have a special Chicago permit, like New York City. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, there was. I mean, I was carrying A+1. I was carrying a 1911, probably in a brown. But so the firepower. I was legal firepower. What the hell was it? I can't. Well, anyway, a lot of these. A buddy of mine, he was telling me he grew up in New York, and his dad was a cop, and he told me, he said, what they used to do in New York in, say, the 50s and the 60s is they had the Sullivan Act. And the Sullivan Act basically outlawed, it somehow was a way to take guns away from people. And so what they would do is they would, they'd catch a civilian with a gun. And they would, typically those people would be arrested. And if they would run them, like index cards, whatever they're doing. And so, but they would basically, if they felt like if they were like, mafioso guys or like career criminals, they would end up in the normal, system, to be prosecuted. But if they were just basically innocent civilians, what they would do is you would end up in night court, and they would be like, okay, Danny is up next, charged with possession, carrying, concealed weapon, whatever. The judge would and said, look at your record. You've got nothing else on your record. He would go, you forfeit your gun, and case is dismissed. And they would dismiss all the cases if your record was clean, but they would take your gun. And they did that for decades in New York. That's how they got away with it. And that's kind of the mentality.
Well, did you know that there is not one gun store in the entire city of Chicago?
Well, there's not a single gun store inside the city of Cincinnati either.
Yes and no. I know what you're saying, Freeze. Yes, I do not believe there are any more gun stores in the city of Cincinnati, but there are FFL.
In Cincinnati, was that through legislation?
Yes, but
like it was in Chicago?
It was zoning and harassment.
Yeah. Back years ago, Cincinnati implemented a lot of draconian laws that basically forced all the gun stores to move outside of the city limits. Now, that's not saying in the surrounding Cincinnati area, because truthfully, and a lot of people outside of Cincinnati probably don't realize this, but Cincinnati is actually a very small city, because whereas like New York, Chicago, they incorporate all their surrounding areas. Like I live literally 15 minutes from downtown Cincinnati, but I live in the township. Yeah, so I'm not in the city.
Yeah, you call 911, CPD doesn't show up.
And you got
the township police show up, which is actually a good thing. In my township, when I was in my teen, we've got a full-time fire department, we got a full-time police department, but when I was growing up, it was a volunteer fire department.
Wow.
Yeah, like a lot of cities that are mid to smaller cities, and this generally happens as cities get to be larger. Eventually, some politician gets the bright idea that why don't we, what do they call that, Freeze? Like Miami, the city of Miami and the county of Dade, I believe, became one government, right?
Yes.
Isn't it Miami-Dade now? And
it's Miami-Dade, yes.
And I think Louisville, Kentucky may have done that as well. Like Jefferson County and Louisville.
I don't know about Louisville. But every once in a while, you'll hear talk about Cincinnati and Hamilton County doing that. But, I don't see it.
All that is the typical liberal commie politicians. They're crazy bullshit policies, and they're running out of money, and so they want to get access to more county money. That's always what that is.
Well, that's exactly right, because all the people with money, and we'll just leave it at that, people with money and jobs have all moved out of the city. And that's not true. Not every single one of them have. But the thing is, the city's tax revenue is down. The only way the city of Cincinnati is getting taxes is by taxing people that actually work inside the city limits. They're not getting shit from the residents. But that's because all the residents live outside the incorporated city limits. And like where I live, my taxes are super high. Where Marky lives, his taxes are super high. But the city's not getting any of that.
It's the same thing here. Yeah. The county is trying to absorb townships and take them over. They don't want townships to be their own standalone government entity.
Yeah, because it's a way to increase budgets and have more control over funds. And and money. And like there was a movement here in Cincinnati. There was talk to do that, but basically what happened is the city of Cincinnati has become more and more liberal or more and more Democratic controlled, and the county's changing, but it was basically GOP controlled. And they're like, no, we moved out of the city because you're all a bunch of commies, and we're not going to give you access to all of our shit.
Same thing here.
So
but see, it doesn't matter where you go, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, you still have commie liberals.
Oh, yeah, isn't that the truth?
Oh yeah.
You know? But you know, I mean, look, I mean, and we're not unique. I mean, there's cities like this all over the freaking country that are in the same situation, you know. But yeah, you know, what can you do about it?
Yeah, I mean, like Cincinnati, like they ran off a bunch of stuff. They ran off. I don't think there's a lot of. Is there manufacturing in the city now?
Very, very little.
Like
very little.
Like
some, but not much.
Not heavy industrial, right? Like it's well, man. No. I don't. You know what? That may be down by the river. They've run everyone. I mean, hell, like Eyebold cigars used to be made here. There was I mean, there was a lot of industry in Cincinnati, but basically the city ran them off. They ran off the gun stores. Ran off a lot of manufacturing. The city, they just harassed the fuck out of people. Like they have their own, tax department and their own zoning, and they're just kind of cocksuckers.
This is what pisses me off about it. Okay, so the city goes, we're going to implement this tax so everyone in Hamilton County can pay for the new stadium so Paul Brown can have a free stadium. And, you know, so we can host a losing football team.
It's a sales tax.
Now, here's the thing. They're increasing the sales tax that infects the entire county. But because I don't live inside the city, I can't vote for it.
Wow.
Because it's only on the city ballot because the city proposed it. And I can't vote for that issue because I don't live in the city. But yet, if it passes by these young that live in the city, I have to pay for it.
Well, here's the best part.
And they did that a lot.
They did that, and then they're like, we promise after so many years this will revert back.
Nope.
And guess what?
Nope.
If I go, well, you know, we're going to probably leave that 0.5% sales tax on, you know, because you're all used to paying for it. They all lie.
Oh, you guys,
it's all bullshit.
You guys got to pay for that number one draft
down.
pick and all that money he's going to get.
God, Christ on the cross, fucking football.
Yeah, I know.
Unbelievable. Well, you know,
Danny, I've told you about Achilles Smith, haven't I? Freeze has heard this story, right? Ever heard? You know who? If I ever tell you, Danny, have I ever told you about the quarterback I used to know for the Cincinnati Bengals? So the Bengals were. I mean, I guess they are. I don't know. Freeze or are they? Do they still suck?
Yes, that's why you got the number one draft.
That's why we got the number one draft.
Oh, okay.
Because finish dead fucking last. That's what you get.
Oh, okay. So they didn't hit enough home runs, and so they finished dead last. Okay. So I'm joking. Okay, so you work out at night. You know, you work at night. You do all this, and so I'm up all night. You know, Freeze and I, we work nights and all that. That's what I used to, and I was always looking for 24-hour gyms or, you know, gyms that stayed open late. Like I used to drive. Like I remember I used to drive to Columbus, Ohio to work out sometimes because they had a 24-hour gym up there. And so, but anyway, I remember I was at this gym. It was in Kentucky. And it was a nice gym in like this, you know, kind of nicer part of it. Was next to a nice neighborhood. And I was in there working out, and I've been going there for a few months in the evenings. And there was this really big black guy. He seemed young. I mean, you know, probably a little bit younger than me at the time. And I remember how I met him was I'm in the weight room, I'm lifting, and some guy's just talking to him and talking. And this, I can tell they don't know each other. And I kind of got the impression, it was like, you know, like y'all standing around way too long in the weight room to be to be talking. Like, something's wrong here. And so I was like, I think this guy might be a football player. So I just happened to be like, I started like get some heavier stuff. Something spot me on something. I kind of was like, hey, dude, do me a favor, give me a spot on this. He was like, yeah, sure, man. Then the other guy who just wanted to talk go away. And so we were, he spotted me on some stuff, and I was like, hey, I don't know who the fuck he was. I said, I assume you're a Bengal, and and he's like, yeah, and I'm like, well, what I'm, I have to say my name, and he goes, and he mumbles his name. He's like, well, Cooley, I'm sorry, what's your name? He goes, Cooley, and I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I had heard the name because I read the newspaper, but I'm like, I tell you what, dude, I know you guys probably, I don't care how many home runs you hit this weekend, if you ever need someone to cover for you or whatever here, just, I'll keep an eye out, and, you want to work out, it's not a problem. And this was an off season. Like, I don't think this was.
Did you seriously ask him how many home runs he hit?
It was my joke. It was my joke to him.
Gotcha.
To let him know that I'm not like you gotta understand, this guy, his whole life's fucking football. He's a kid.
Yeah.
I mean, he's still a kid. He'd been playing football since he was like, a stain on his mama's leg. And then, all through high school, grade school, high school, college, ends up at the Bengals, and I guess they're getting destroyed. And he just is hating life, and he's embarrassed, and he's living in Kentucky. And, as a black guy, he's like, you just know his whole life. He was like, man, when I make the pros, I'm going to be balling. It's going to be chicks. It's going to be money. It's going to be on.
Coyote coach.
Stuck in Kentucky, and he's a loser. And, and it's like the team sucks, and everything's his fault because he's the black Jesus. So because the Bengals do this bullshit, they suck, but then they get this number 1 draft pick, and supposedly it's all going to be better. And, so that's how I became. I just knew from the gym, from this one until I think he got hurt or got traded or was out of the league or something. So, but we never talked sports.
I've never heard the name. I don't follow the Bengals. I don't follow football.
Oh, dude, this was a long.
You guys are lucky because you had the '70s Reds. I would have given anything to see those teams.
That is true.
Hey, I know Pete Rose's. I know Pete Rose's bookie.
Well, I know his first wife and his son.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. Yeah. Well, he'll bring up the son.
But the thing is, what's different today than was different back in like the 70s and the 80s is in the 70s and the 80s, these guys weren't mega freaking superstars, and they didn't make, $65 million a year. They made good money, but like the big red machine, Pete Rose, Johnny Bench, Joe Morgan, all Tony Perez, all those guys. It was nothing to see them shopping in Kroger's. I mean, they were very accessible. No one fawned on them. Well, I mean, people did fawn on them, but I mean, they were everyday average guys. And I mean, they didn't live in gated mansions away from the fans that would mob them every day, because fans didn't mob them every day. I mean, it was a lot different back then than it is today.
That's interesting.
And
they got smart about their money. I mean, things were different. Like they had to have jobs like in the winter. Like selling cars or selling windows or
Johnny Bench was a spokesperson for Fifth Third Bank for years. Like how I know Carolyn Rose and little Pete Jr., who's a dick, by the way, is in my neighborhood. I was
hoping not to say that, but that's fine.
He is or was. I don't know if he still is. I haven't seen him for years. But I'll tell you what. He was such a jerkwater. When we would play baseball, we wouldn't let him play with us. But no, we wouldn't, because he was an asshole. But in my neighborhood, they had family friends that lived like a block street from where I grew up. And, and they were over there a lot. And that's just how we met them, because they were just, we knew who they were, but it wasn't like, oh my God. It was just like, yeah, hey, what's going on? It was, again, different time.
Yeah, things were very different back then.
Yeah.
So, I mean, these guys, okay, like, speaking of money, did you guys, okay, you know who, like, the women's soccer team, Megan I can't say her name, the crazy lesbian woman that's always angry.
I know.
And they won the World Cup and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Do you remember all the drama? Like, they should get paid as much as the men, and all this that, like,
I do.
you remember, like, that was like a thing. That was like a meme in the news, especially on the left, all summer, or all winter. And so, I found out what was going on with that. So it just recently happened that they were suing American Soccer, whatever you would call that company, for equal pay, or they wanted more money. And so, because they weren't getting paid as much as the men. And I have to be honest with you, part of me is like, it seems a little odd to me, because they're successful. Like, they're the stars.
Actually,
like,
American men's soccer is doing very well right
because I never heard of them. Like, if they were any good,
yeah,
you'd hear about
actually,
them, right?
it really is.
Huh? Is it doing well? But check this. Okay, but hold on. But check this out. So here's what happened.
Yeah.
The men's team and the women's team were given contract options. They were offered. They both had the same offer. It said you can either do guaranteed money, or you can get paid per game.
Okay.
And so the guys, they chose paid per game. They were like,
okay,
well, if I'm playing, I want to get paid.
But
what happened was the women chose guaranteed money. They signed guaranteed money. So what happened was, the men ended up making more money because of something with the amount of, could have had the same contract. So what the women did, they signed the contract. They all reviewed it. They all agreed on it. They signed it. So then what they did, they decided to sue to try to get out of the contract. And so the lefty media has been telling everybody that the women's soccer is unfair because, women don't get paid as much as men. And it's like, no, they signed the fucking contract they wanted to sign.
Well, what's interesting about that is,
and guess what? The federal judge said no, contract is good.
Sign the contract saying you're going to get paid per game. Okay, what the women are looking at is, well, the guys that are playing are making more money than us for whatever reason that be. But the guys that aren't playing are making less money than the women because they're not getting paid. So,
yeah. I mean, I guess that's, and not that I'm that invested in it or that I care that much, but when I heard that, see, you never hear that because, you just read the headlines because you can't deep dive on everything. It's just like, wait a minute. All this shit they're talking about is kind of fake bullshit. It's like, wait a minute. You signed a contract, and so now you don't like your contract. It's like, at least be honest about it. Like, Prince, he signed a contract with Sony or whatever the record label was, and he decided he didn't want to be under that contract anymore. So he went around and did concerts for years with the word slave written on his cheeks. I'm a slave. He won't let me out of my contract. It's like, and eventually he got out of his contract. They worked out something after years.
Speaking of contracts,
expired.
I know what woman's probably not getting paid for her contract anymore. That woman from the shooting team in Vegas.
Here we go.
Oh, fuck. Okay, here we go. So, I got to say this. I don't know a whole lot about this, but I recognize the name. So, there was a shooting, I believe, over the weekend in Las Vegas. And male and female were, I guess, attacked by two men. And I'm hearing, I don't think all the facts have come out as to what really transpired, which I think may be a clue. I don't know. But the guy the victim who shot in self-defense, he is a professional. What do you call that?
The Baja
Please,
racing.
What do you call when
Baja?
the kind of trucks
Yeah.
you drive across the desert and race them?
Yeah.
What do they call that?
Yeah, that all started
Is that what
with
they call it?
the what is it?
It's like
the
a freestyle truck
1000
or
or something like
it's
that, where they raced like 1,000 miles through the Baja Peninsula or whatever, something like that. But yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It's something. So he is either very, very good at that, or he may be like the champion of that. I'm not certain, but he's not a nobody in those circles. His girlfriend was with him at the time, and I guess she was unarmed, and her name is Tori.
Yeah.
Is it Nonaka?
I'm trying to
What's her
remember
name?
myself what the hell it is.
Danny, you should know this.
So can I.
I can see her face. So, but anyway, for those of you who are interested in this, that name may ring a bell. Tori is she's like she's a girl, and she used to be on the Glock shooting team, and we have talked about Tori in the past on this very podcast, Freeze. Because when I talked about that the Glock shooting team needs to be completely disbanded and shut down because see if I get all this right. Some of these sexual scandals, I get them confused with different people. Like, I don't know if she's involved with. I got to be careful. I don't want to say the wrong name and make it worse. She was on the Glock shooting team, and she was a minor. A young, like Asian-looking girl, talented shooter apparently, and maybe Filipino. I'm not really certain, but she was traveling around the country for Team Glock, and she's like this very commercial-looking female, and they made her the star, and it's not all really clear. Like, I haven't looked at it in years, but there was a lot of fucking and statutory rape shit going on apparently for a long time, and people went to prison over it. And the Glock shooting team basically almost blew apart completely. Like, all these people left the team, and most of them are still in the shooting sports today. And there's always been allegations that what was going on was far worse. Was far more than what even came out in court, just because, basically this Tori girl, when she was a minor, she was the victim in a statutory rape charge for a member of the, I think maybe the coach or somebody on the Glock shooting team. And she's a notorious person. And so it's just like, she's involved in this gunfight. She doesn't have a gun. She had her boyfriend had to get the gun. She's this well-known shooter, and it was just really interesting. It's like she's got kind of a troubled past. 2:00 in the morning, somewhere in Vegas, they get attacked coming out of a restaurant. Like, supposedly it might have had something to do with something that happened at a gun store earlier, and he isn't the gun guy. She is the gun gal. She doesn't have a gun. He does. He shoots the guy that's attacking them with a gun, and then he tells the media, "I got all my hits." I mean, the whole thing is just like, wow. It's just like I feel like, again, I'm trying to be nice here. I just feel like, as an outsider looking in, whenever I see her name,
I just tried looking it up.
A lot of
that was my
stuff seems to be
here,
swirling around,
and I can't find her name.
And I'm just a lot of drama.
Yeah.
I think it's. I better not. Well, I hope I don't get it wrong. But anyway, but it was like, like her name came across like the wires, and I'm like, I don't think anybody realized who she was. They were all, because it's like BJ combat shooting team, but it's not him. But he's not a gun guy. He's a
basically a race car
Baja
driver.
guy. He's 100% a legit race. Like, he's professional. Like, the dude makes this big money in that. Like, he's not just some guy who's poking around. It was just interesting, and I don't know. It's just a lot of questions, and I think that it's just like it's a justified shooting. But I think maybe there might be some more stuff to drop from that, for good or ill. I don't know what. It just seems odd. Like, well, also just even objectively, it's like, okay, what I'm trying to think of a name. Danny, do you know who Larry Vickers is?
Larry
Vickers. You ever heard of Larry Vickers?
That sounds very familiar. Larry.
Okay, Danny, do you know who Jerry Michalik is?
Yes.
Okay, so just to prove a point, like, imagine you read a news story and there's a gun crime where somebody's assaulted and attacked with firearms, and like you find out Jerry Michalik doesn't have a gun on him. Like, he's running through life. Like, that would just seem odd to me.
It seemed very odd to me.
It's like, why is Tori Nonaka, or whatever her name is, running? I mean, like, how many of these gun people don't actually carry guns? How many of them are kind of full of shit?
I mean, no, that I don't know. Actually, that doesn't surprise me. I mean, it really doesn't. I mean, there's a lot of cops out there that when they're not on duty, they don't carry a gun.
See, I'll tell you what. I think that is.
I think that's asinine.
I think that's an old school thing. I think that's less common now than ever. I think cops today are smarter. I think they're better educated. They're better trained. They're better fighters, and they're also better educated. They're also more aware of being a cop today. I believe you're not as likely to have my life outside of police work. Like,
well, that very well may be, but I still know a ton of cops that don't carry guns when they're off duty. It just.
Are these
Cincinnati
Boston cops or Cincinnati cops?
I do know some Boston cops that don't carry. Well, not Boston cops per se. I don't know any actual Boston PD, but the MSP, Massachusetts State Police. I know several of those guys. I know several that do carry off duty, but I know several that don't. You know
what? Now that I'm thinking about it, there's a woman that I know that's on CPD. I've known her for years, and I would not be surprised if she didn't carry. I would not. It just for some reason wouldn't be like. I'd be like, you don't have a gun on you? Like, really?
Jesus, I know guys that take showers with them on.
They won't. Stainless steel, baby.
Well, actually, I got a little story about that. How Chicago is notorious for the shootings and murders, and they try to get the numbers up every weekend. It seems. In fact, I'm waiting to see the 3-day weekend what they're going to be. I actually now I want you to picture this now in Chicago. All the little leagues and pony leagues and things like that play ball, there are no set complexes. Every park is inner city, and every inner city park is within the neighborhood. So if you're an umpire, you have to go into the inner city, into these neighborhoods, and the parks are right in the middle of them to call the ball game. I know several umpires that carry a 32 or 25 inside their ball bag.
Yeah.
Have to. You have to.
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of shootings that happen at these playgrounds anymore. I mean, Jesus Christ. Some asshole showed up at the GOP congressional baseball game and shot up the place. You know what I mean? It's like, hell, I mean, Chicago. I mean, getting shot at a baseball game in Chicago would be like stubbing your toe.
I've talked to these umpires before, and there's just random shootings, and everybody's hitting the deck, for the bullets flying right during a little league game. That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. So, have you guys noticed how long this podcast?
I have. I can see the counter on my phone right now.
We have been going for you were late, Freeze, but we have been going for the recording started 111 minutes ago, but we record a few minutes before we go live. So, normally we were shutting it down around about 50 minutes because my microphone would die. So
it's been a while.
We would treat everybody to an extra long podcast, and we haven't really talked about guns that much.
Well, it's been a while, and we have a 3-day weekend that we have to, atone for. Not atone. I can't even think that.
Well,
yeah, well, I mean, in Chicago, God, I hadn't thought about the 3-day weekend.
It's going to be interesting.
Shooting rate.
But, I mean, look, we haven't done a long podcast in a while, and sometimes it's good just to sit down and bullshit and not, it doesn't have to be a deep dive on politics. It doesn't have to be a deep dive on guns all the time, even though that's kind of what we do, but,
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Well, so you talk about the deep downs. Did anybody see the crack comment from Biden?
I did not.
About the
I mean, the whole you don't vote for me, you ain't black,
right,
or
black
something.
crack or whatever it was.
Yeah, he's already walking that one, but I ain't no ways tired. And why is he saying it like he's got a southern accent?
Oh, Hillary.
I know, but it's just like,
okay, so like, why does I mean, do people on the left, are they so blind? Look, Biden's already come out and said, hey, I'm going to pick a VP out of all the hundreds and hundreds of people that may be qualified to be my VP. If it's not a black woman, they don't stand a shot. Man, that in itself, I mean, seriously, dude, why does it have to be a black female? I mean, I understand the politics behind it, but is your party in so much damn trouble you will pick what's the chick from Georgia? You'll pick Stacey Abrams because she's a black woman, opposed to, I don't know, pick a prominent white male or Hispanic male Democrat. Well, actually,
honestly, he should choose Amy Klobuchar. I mean, if it was normal, he would choose Amy Klobuchar or Kamala Harris. But Amy Klobuchar could bring Wisconsin, possibly, or hold Wisconsin, wherever she's from.
She's from Minnesota.
Same thing.
Minnesota, whatever. Okay, so, it's all the same
thing.
It's okay. Almost Canada.
No, it's not. Anything south of 80, you guys are going.
That's true.
That's true. My people. That's my people right there. So,
but, I mean, like that one.
Well, you know what, Freeze, you bring up a good point though. Let's think about this. Just like I'm not that I'm the guy to defend Joe Biden. But you know what? Let's be real here. Okay, all we hear for years from the media is, the Democrats own the black vote. Bill Clinton was I'm the first black president, and then it's like then they finally get the first black president, and then there's like it's all they say all the time is, in reference to the black community in the United States. The liberal media says how Republicans hate blacks, Democrats love the blacks. Republicans want to put you all back in chains, Joe Biden. Democrats, are they want to do all this stuff for the blacks. Yeah. Okay, the blacks. That's a great phrase. But it's interesting. So the media and the Democratic Party and the establishment, they all say all the time in so many different ways, we own the black vote. It's our territory. You can't touch it. Go get your votes from somewhere else, Republicans. Joe Biden makes a joke basically saying the same thing that they've been saying for 50 years. And it's, oh my God, you can't say that. It's a little bizarre.
Yeah.
Because that's all they ever say. If you're black, you're voting for Democrat.
And if you don't,
you're black, you're voting for a Democrat unless you're crazy ass Kanye or the doctor that works for Trump. It's like, that's all they say. There's an assumption, like anybody that's black that even looks at Donald Trump and says something like, you know what, he's kind of a pimp. You know, I kind of like the guy. Oh my God. They're like, oh my God, you're a terrible person. Oh my God, you're a disgrace. You're betraying the black community. You know, Joe Biden makes a joke basically saying, yeah, we own the black vote. And they're like, you can't say that. Well, okay, you all been saying it. How come he can't say it? It's kind of bizarre. It was a joke.
Well, you know, you got to come out of the basement. Number one, is he gonna debate from the basement? Is he gonna campaign out of the basement? That's why I really think these Democrat governors that are keeping these states closed, they're doing it as a favor to Biden because he can't come out.
Oh, dude, did you see he did a hit on one of the news channels, and he's giving his little, like, his 15-second spiel and blah, 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 blah. And in November, we are going to defeat Joe Biden. He actually said, we are going to defeat Joe Biden. Like, they're like, cut. But speaking of jokes, we're going to go ahead. We always like to end on something funny. We have been going for a long time. And I probably won't get this podcast even published until Saturday. But it's 11 o'clock, guys. So we've been
Where's the police blotter at?
So here's your police blotter. I saw this a couple weeks ago, and I'm going to describe it. And in the show notes in the comment section, I'll insert the video. But this has happened in Canada. And so there's a store that opened up in Canada. It's like, I don't know if it's like an electronics store or if it was like a bar. It might have been a bar. But what they did, it's for May the 4th. So it's May 22nd. So a couple weeks ago. So what this bar did is they found a girl, and on May the 4th, so may the 4th be with you, and she had a Strom Trooper outfit on, like the full white with the helmet, and, you know, these are not the droids you're looking for. She's got the Strom Trooper blaster, and she's standing at the end of the parking lot on this road, and, basically like waving to traffic like, hey, may the 4th be with you. Stop on in the Big Rick's for a drink or something. You know, she's a mascot. Okay? She's a stormtrooper at the end of the driveway saying, come into the bar. It's May the 4th. Let's come and get shit-faced and compare the sizes of our lightsabers. So guess what happens? She's standing out there in her full outfit. You can't even tell it's a woman. She's in the full, the full, stolen valor stormtrooper outfit. The freaking Canadian Mounties, dude, they rolled up on her with ARs and like it was an active shooter. And they come at her. And so the stormtrooper.
It's a toy gun. Okay, okay, gotcha. I mean,
it's. So they show up. I don't know if like they saw her and then they like, oh my God, or maybe someone called and said, there's a crazy person with a gun. So they roll up, they see the stormtrooper. At this point, it's a stormtrooper. They've got their rifles, they're surrounded this person, and they're like, drop the weapon, and puts the gun down, and then they're like, get on the ground. And she has a stormtrooper outfit on. She's trying to talk through the mask. She's like, I can't bend over. And they can't hear her. She can't.
Well, this wraps up episode 174 of the John 1911 podcast. As some of you may have now discovered that we've learned that our software times out after 2 hours. And right at the 2-hour mark, it dropped everybody online. So, we'll have pictures of and the link to the story about the Stormtrooper, the felony stop Stormtrooper in Canada. And if you want to see any more pictures or links or anything that we discussed, go to our website, john1911.com. That's JOHN1911.com. Remember, it's all about shooting guns and having fun. Everybody, have a good day.